Okay, well, welcome in. Thanks for joining today. We have a little bit of a different setup today because we are trying something new for the first time. We are doing today a prophetic recap for the month of September. So a new series that we're starting here on the channel, and it's going to involve, kind of like the title suggests, just recapping different prophetic voices that were shared for that month, whether it be people that spoke that month or people that spoke previous to that, but their prophecies applied to that month. So we're kicking it off with September. Obviously, a lot happened in September, so I'm excited to dive in. And why is prophecy important, right? Well, it says this from Paul in 1 Corinthians chapter 14. It says, "Pursue love and be eager for the spiritual gifts, especially that you may prophesy." And it goes on to say, talks a little bit about tongues, how people don't understand tongues, like speaking in tongues. But it says, the one who prophesies speaks to people for their strengthening, encouragement, and consolation. The one who speaks in a tongue builds himself up, but the one who prophesies builds up the church. I wish you all would speak in tongues, but even more that you would prophesy. The one who prophesies is greater than the one who speaks in tongues, unless he interprets so that the church may be strengthened. Right? So Paul really clarifies here that prophecy is a great spiritual gift that helps strengthen the rest of the church, right? Not every spiritual gift is for the whole church, such as speaking in tongues, which is still a great gift, but you see what Paul's saying, right? So because of that verse and so many others, Christians of any belief system should believe in prophecy the same way we believe in prayer, right? Without that, if we didn't believe in prophecy, we'd have to throw out most of Paul's letters in the New Testament, as well as sections of the book of Acts. So it's really important. We're going to look at some of these prophetic voices and messages that apply to events that happened in September, and we're going to kind of interpret it and go from there. And really just sharing these to help bring encouragement and some resources to the people that watch these videos, so that way you can have a few different ideas about how God is moving in this upcoming season. This first one's from a prophet named Joseph Z. You might have heard of him. He does a lot of prophetic speaking. I have only been following him probably for a few months, if that, so I'm relatively newer. I was introduced by some people online, but I will say it seems like everything I've seen has lined up. He seems like a great person of God and seems very trustworthy. So we're going to dive in. He had a prophecy about everything related to Charlie Kirk, and that was a huge event that took place in September. I mean, feel free to go back. We did a couple videos on Charlie, his legacy, his memorial. So let's take a look at this first one and kind of dive into a prophecy by Joseph Z about the event with Charlie Kirk.
An anointing is coming upon many who will pick up the mantle of a fallen leader. The time will come in a similar manner that symbolically it will be as if the shepherd has been struck, and the darkness will believe, because of striking the shepherd, that the sheep will scatter. But I say unto you, it will not be so. It will be a multiplier of the people accumulating into a roar.
Joseph Z, he's come out in support of this word that, as you can see, was spoken in August 2022, saying that he's very confident that this was referring to the killing of Charlie Kirk. But yeah, powerfully put, what a lot of Christian leaders have come out and spoken, that this was a time where the devil kind of overstepped, right? You might have heard that already. The sheep are rising up and filling the place of the shepherd tenfold, 100-fold, right? So I've seen so many people speak on that, but I love that this was an actual clip from a couple years ago. So it's really powerful and really effective for what we're seeing. It helps give a little bit of clarity, but what a cool word on that. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at another one that Joseph spoke. This one's a tad more detailed, but also talking about what's to come now from this point.
This is what I see happening as we begin to pick up sticks. So what does this mean for the whole picture? It means that, this 4 years of redemptive instability I've been prophesying about, I believe this, 25, 26.
And just to give a little bit of clarity here, so right previous to this, Joseph had prophesied about 2026 being a year of reformation. He called it a year of picking up sticks, right? So this is going to be a year that people are going to take back, and the church is going to take back sticks almost that have dropped, and they're going to pick them up, and sticks really representing, I feel like, society, culture. And we're taking back the culture that the church threw off to the secular world in the last few decades. And it's a time of reformation and revival. And he's going to talk a little bit more about that, but just as a little bit of a background there.
2028 is going to be the year of not only the great debate, it's going to be the year that we have the opportunity to see the new America. And I believe this is the year that we begin to see a right sizing, a turning point, the turning point to this year. And then we're going to see movements come. And I believe the Lord wants to accelerate revival through this time frame. And if we do this right, it's ours to lose. And even if we mess this up, if the church doesn't rise to meet this in 2028, what could begin to happen is the Lord will give us another do-over because he's long suffering. Should the Lord tarry and not return, we could get a do-over and we'd go again and start right sizing, but it would take a long time. But I see an opportunity, and the window is here for this to truly induce the beginning, the foundation from revival to reformation.
Yeah, it's cool he talks about this. When I was watching this, I really felt in my spirit that the America we're going to see in 2028 is going to be almost unrecognizable in so many areas for a good reason. It's going to be, in a good way, unrecognizable because there's so much shift, and you're already seeing it happening here near the end of 2025, and it's going to continue to carry over, just like Joseph's describing here, in 2026, 2027, and up to 2028. He calls it the year of the great debate. I'm not sure what he's referring to there. He might have a previous prophecy on that. If you know of it, let me know, because I have yet to find it. But of course, that is the next presidential election, so that would be quite the timing on that. God's doing a quick shift. There's a lot of things that the church has been praying for, just the past decade or so, maybe longer, and we haven't seen a lot of those prayers answered in society. But during the next few years, you're going to see the Lord's going to start answering these prayers, and you're going to see shifts come quickly. And it's going to be really exciting to watch. So just be prepared and be ready, because you're going to play a part in that. If you are a believer in the Lord, he wants you to play a part in that. So that's going to look like things he's going to put on your heart to do. So be prepared, clear parts of your calendar, and be ready, because the Lord's going to give you tasks during these next few years if he hasn't already. So it's an exciting time.
What does Luke 1:17 say? For he will take the spirit of Elijah, will turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, and the disobedient to the wisdom of the just. In other words, even those that aren't obeying God, aren't listening, aren't doing what they're supposed to do, they will be turned to the wisdom of the just. Meaning, the land will change. They won't just get to do whatever they used to do. Because revival will impact the culture till there's a changed society, in society. Our faith is the power that brings the world to its knees. 1 John 5.
Yeah, it's a powerful section too. I'll just comment real quick on that. You're going to start seeing, since the church is going to head so many of these reformative changes in society, and you're going to start seeing people that are just non-believers, so secular people in America, they're going to be positively impacted by these changes. They're going to see it. As the church goes, the world will go with it, right? And we've seen so many cases where people have just been blessed growing up in a Christian-based society that has biblical values. There's such a blessing there. And people that aren't believers don't even realize how much of a blessing it is. Because a lot of people that are, not Christians, but they live in a society like America that was founded on Christian values, they'll look at it and they'll say, oh, there's certain things we all agree on, right? We all agree murder is not right in certain cases. We all agree that, we shouldn't have pedophiles in society. But let me tell you what, these are not givens. These are things from Christianity. I promise you, if you're somebody watching this who is not a believer, take a step back, zoom out for a second, realize how morally, I've heard some people say it, that morally non-believers in the U.S. are born on second or third base because of the values the Bible instills. These are not normal values. These come from a source. So it's something just to keep in mind. So we're going to shift gears here. We have another prophetic voice that came across in the month here of September. This is Hank Kunneman. He's a pastor over in Nebraska, but he also has a great prophetic voice. And today we're going to hear a little clip from him that he shared, I think within just a few days after the killing of Charlie Kirk. And we're going to see some things that he felt the Lord was showing him. So let's take a look at this.
Because there is a sound being released, and it is of that which men have said, God, when shall you come, and what shall the signs be? Oh yes, I'm coming. rapture. But I say to you, before I come, there is a rupture that shall manifest in the earth. Therefore, this is the rupture that shall come to the earth. And it is the rupturing of a veil of confusion, of darkness, of mind-binding spirits that have been upon a generation.
Yeah, so great word there by Pastor Hank. Let's go a little further into that here. So we see that he's talking about there's going to be a rupture before there's a rapture, right? And I remember just a few weeks ago, there's a lot of Christians, it was on, I think it was September 23rd. You might have seen this because it went kind of viral on social media, but so many Christians said, oh, there's going to be the rapture on this day. It's going to be September 23rd. I think it was the Jewish Feast of the Trumpets. So I think that was kind of the main reason. Of course, trumpets and the rapture kind of go hand in hand. And they said this is when it's going to happen, and obviously it didn't, right? So again, we need to stop as Christians to stop trying to pick the day of the rapture. We need to have the mindset that Jesus is coming back soon. It's happening quickly, but we don't know when, and that's not our place, right? So whether it's pre-trib, mid-trib, I think most of us can agree it's definitely not post-trib, right? But those things, again, shouldn't be things that really divide us. And what Hank's talking about here is there's going to be a rupture that's already started that's going to be sifting the church. And we've seen a few of these events kind of sift the church in the past 5 or 6 years. We saw it with COVID. We saw it with George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement and all those rioting and everything like that. We saw it with the election just a year ago. So there's a lot of moments happening, and probably for those that are watching outside the U.S., there's other moments that have been happening in your country as well. So especially COVID, we can all relate to. But God is helping sift the church. Now we're seeing it with Charlie Kirk, and how much that has exposed different church leaders that say, I still refuse to talk about this, but I'm going to talk so much about George Floyd. That's really bothering to me and so many others, where Charlie was such a great example, such a brother to our faith, and yet so many pastors still are not focused on talking about a Christian hero who was martyred. So as a church, we need to be aware and have discernment with it as well. But one thing I love that Pastor Hank said here too was that during this rupture, God is going to be bringing justice to the spiritual. He's going to be binding these demonic forces that have been causing confusion on a generation. So what does that mean? It can mean a few things, but to me, what really hit my heart when I was listening to this was not quite my generation, but the generations previous to me. So millennials, Gen X, baby boomers, these generations, they grew up. And if you're part of those generations, then you grew up in this anti-God movement that started sweeping the nation. What was happening during that time is crazy beliefs, a lot of them being Marxist beliefs that many stemmed from Russia, in that area, the Soviet Union at the time, where Karl Marx was originally based out of. But they spread, these secular beliefs spread to Europe. We saw it with the Nazis in Germany. It wasn't quite Marxism, but it was those same values when it came to religion, right, and Christianity. And we saw it spread after the World War II into other parts of Europe, and also into the US, where it infiltrated a lot of our school systems and is still very strong, as we can see. So it's cool what Hank's talking about. It's so encouraging here that the Lord is bringing justice during this time. So many people are coming to know the Lord because they were saying, we used to believe in that. We grew up believing in those beliefs. And those secular beliefs, we were brainwashed in it, but the scales are falling from our eyes. God's exposing how silly and ridiculous those beliefs are. And the Lord's saying, science is something I established, and I'm not going to give glory to it for those that hate me. And we're almost done here. We're just going to wrap it up. So we have 2 prophecies here from the prophet Kim Clement. And Kim's probably one of my favorite prophetic voices. If you don't know, he actually passed away back in 2015. But a lot of what he's prophesied, and he prophesied a lot in his life. It's he's awesome. His ministry is still run by his daughters today, and I'll put a link in the description to that. But he's prophesied so much too about this season that we're living in, this time, the 2020s, decade. So it's really exciting to see. This was one, the first one I'll play for you is kind of more of a somber warning that the Lord was showing him, that they already had started seeing in this time. I think this one's from 2013, so let's take a listen.
I'm awake in California, and I feel that this search for these terrorists will end soon. However, they are lone wolf individuals who are trained to cripple various states in the United States of America. These states need to be protected. Their souls need to be protected. The enemies are determined and motivated. And then I heard the name Paul. I was led to pray for various states, and the South was a concern. Let's join together and pray for exposure, for God to expose the individuals who are plotting an attack in the South, the mountains, and against the innocent. There is a cult that is ready to do anything to destroy our faith. They will be exposed. But will it be too late? We need to pray that God intervenes as he did with Saul of Tarsus.
Wow. Yeah, so definitely a little sombering there, as more of a warning. And they were already seeing signs of this. I saw just from a commentary from his daughters who, run his ministry to this day. They mentioned that name Paul he saw was actually one of these lone wolf terrorist type people who later in that year, probably about 6 months maybe after this was prophesied, shot and killed somebody at the airport in LA with, shot a TSA agent. So you can go read about that story. It's a terrible story, very tragic. We are seeing, especially since that time period in the last 10 years, we're seeing such an increase in these lone wolf shooters and terrorists that are just acting on their own accord. Based on everything we know about Charlie Kirk, it seems like the shooter is one of these lone wolf shooters. We saw it with Trump with 2 that tried to take his life, 2 attempts, both lone wolf shooters. We saw it with the church in Minnesota. We're seeing it all over. Kim says something really interesting. He says that there's almost ties to this terroristic cult that wants to try to do anything possible to destroy our faith. And it's hard to know. There's probably a few different types, especially here in America, that could be good fits for that, good matches. We have Antifa, which constantly is coming against biblical Christian values. We have the rise of the Muslims and Islam in the U.S., and we're seeing killings and we're seeing violence from that group. The trans and the LGBTQ movement, and they're very violent, just like we saw with the killer in Minnesota with the Catholic Church there. So we're seeing rises of this, but Kim could also be talking too about there's been a globalist movement too, where there's very rich different globalist figures who we don't know too much about, but we know just enough to know that they're out there and they hate Christianity and they hate the values it stands for. So many different types that it could apply to, but the good news is he says the Lord will bring them to justice, but will it be too late? So we need to be praying for that as a church. And then lastly, we're going to finish with one final prophecy from Kim Clement. This one's actually been going pretty viral since the past few weeks after, the Charlie Kirk assassination, because a lot of people think it could be in reference to his wife, Erika. Back in 2011, he prophesied this, that there would be a woman that would come during what seems to be what he's talking about, Trump's presidency, because Kim saw that Trump would become president. He actually saw it back in 2007, and he prophesied that Donald Trump would become president. And not only that, but that he'd have 2 terms. He prophesied about this woman that would rise up and bring healing to a culture. And it's interesting because Kim's own daughters who run the ministry have come out and reviewed this video in the past couple weeks, and they've said they, over the past few years, or the past decade or so, they've thought it to be certain individuals, but they've never felt as strong as it being somebody as Erika, because all the other ones kind of fell through and it became clear it wasn't who Kim was talking about. But they are very convinced that Erika is the one Kim could be talking about. So it's very exciting because this is a very encouraging word. So let's go ahead and take a look together.
Deliver us now. Deliver us. Bring deliverance, Lord. Deliver us from this enemy that has endeavored to handicap us. And Lord, the betrayal that has been so evident in the White House, bring that to an end.
And of course, he's talking about President Obama, because this is back in 2011, saying that he was a betrayal in the White House. And it is just so interesting how many of us at that time, I was young, but many of us liked Obama. We were not aware of some of the destructive things he was putting in place until just the past 5 or 6 years, where a lot of it's come to light. But it's crazy how the Lord was even showing him back then in 2011 that this was happening behind the scenes, this betrayal of the American people. So just a thought there.
I see a president that shall come, and this is not to speak bad about this one. There is a president who will come. And God says he will have absolutely no fear. Absolutely no fear. Will be decisive, make decisions.
And it seems like that's talking about Trump, right? Trump's very fearless. We saw it when he was shot at the attempt on his life, where he just got up and said, fight, fight, fight. They were even at one point trying to put him in the SUV to drive off, and he stuck his head back up in clear view of any shooters, screaming that. So you can love or hate Trump, but we can all agree he doesn't have much fear.
And then in the middle of the restoration of America, rapidly, because of a source of energy that shall come quickly.
And Kim's talked about this before. It's something that really, if you want to do some more homework on it, go read about this source of energy he talks about. Pretty sure he referenced it coming from the U.S. here. I think even maybe Michigan. But referencing that there's going to be this discovery of this new energy source that's going to be very simple, but something that nobody thought of until then.
And because of medical breakthroughs, and because of agreements between nations, specifically China, God said they shall say, we never dreamed this would happen. They said that this in Japan would never happen. But God says, listen to me. As the beginning of the restoration, as it begins, there shall be a woman that shall rise up. A woman that shall be strong in faith, virtuous, beautiful in eyes, and her eyes shall be so beautiful. Her eyes shall be round and big. I have crowned her, says the Lord, as I crowned Esther. And the people shall receive her, for she shall have the oil of gladness for the pain and the mourning that has taken place. And she shall pour out the oil. Is there some oil here, please, Marty? Is there some oil?
Yeah, we'll pause there for a sec. That's really striking, right? Especially to somebody like Erika. You see, obviously the comment about Erika being very virtuous in faith. So many that were close to Charlie in the past few weeks have come out saying that part of the reason Charlie became so passionate about Christianity was because of Erika. If you look at some of Charlie's debating and just speaking content, between 2017 and 2019, and then from 2020 on, you'll see such a shift towards Christianity and Christian subjects. And somebody close to him have said this was because of Erika. So it's cool to hear him saying that. And some of those other things too, obviously the physical feature of the eyes. If you've seen Erika speak in the last few weeks during this time, that's probably the first thing you notice about her. She has very striking and unique eyes, very light colored, very unique. It's funny he mentions that, and then also mentions that the Lord had crowned her. So this, I've heard a few people reference Erika was a winner of Miss Arizona back, I think 2014, I'm not sure, but she was a winner and literally crowned through this competition. And then also too, she's been crowned with such a position of being the new president and CEO of Turning Point USA. So there's a few things I could reference to, but a lot of it lines up. And of course, the mention of taking the pain from the sorrow and the mourning. And of course, that references what she's been going through these past few weeks, the pain of losing her husband. It really is crazy how a lot of this is starting to line up. But let's go ahead and listen to a little bit more about what Kim has to say here.
She shall pour out the oil on this nation. And God says healing shall begin, and then it shall flow rapidly. Schools will be free from potential damage and danger, shootings and murder, drug addiction. Cartels shall be afraid of a woman anointed by God, a woman set aside. And God says they will say we hated her, but now we love her. For she shall take the oil of healing, and she shall pour it upon the scars of those left and those right, and of the new party that has come forth and emerged, where they shall say Christ will reign, and this we shall not implement at all socialism, where we will where they have said, we will make history without God. No, you will not. No, you will not, says the Lord. For I chose this nation before it was founded. Before anybody came here, I chose this entire nation, all 50 states, every one of them, to send my gospel to the entire earth. Do you think I have changed my mind? Therefore, the healing that is necessary for this nation shall come at a time in the middle of the presidency. There shall be a woman that shall come. And God said there shall be oil that shall be poured upon the nation. And they shall suddenly feel the healing. And they shall say, it is well with my soul. It is well with our soul. For the soul of America has been corrupted. The soul of this nation has been corrupted with bitterness and anger. And God said she shall say, no more bitterness, no more anger, no more division, and shall pour the oil that shall come from the Spirit of the Lord himself. If you as a nation believe it, if you want this, lift your voice and shout one more time and say, yes! Yes to Esther! Yes to Esther! Yes to Esther! Yes to Esther!
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, man, I wish Kim was still with us, but yeah, pretty incredible there. So it's definitely something to think about, and that's why I kind of wanted to end it with that prophecy. I love how he says that we're seeing a push for socialism, and you weren't seeing that when he was prophesying this in 2011, but we are seeing it now. New York City, at the time of recording this, is likely going to have their next mayor be somebody who is openly socialist. And there's probably going to be other mayors or even governors that follow suit. So we're seeing an increase of this, but it's so cool and encouraging how he says how the Lord chose this nation before it was founded, all 50 states even, because we only started as about 12 or 13. God has such a plan for America to help reach the ends of the earth during these end days. America is called to be a light as the rest of the world gets darker. And there are other countries too that we're seeing step up and be a light, but we're seeing others get darker. So is this Erika? I don't know. We're going to find out. But according to Kim's own daughters and so many others online, it's so much of it is starting to line up, and it's exciting. So all we can do is kind of wait and see. But with that, that's the end of today's prophetic recap for September. What a crazy month it was. I'm glad to be starting out October, but the Lord is moving, and guys, do not miss it. There's going to be so many Christians near the end days where they're going to miss how God's moving in the earth. They're going to completely miss it. Let's embrace the prophetic during this time and do so. I'll leave the links to these ministries in the description. If you want to look into them a little bit further, I highly encourage it. And the goal will be to be back after October passes with another recap of prophecies that we see regarding October and the events that'll take place. So let's walk into October strong, confident, and mission-minded, because the Lord is doing something not just in the world, but in us too as a church. This is not the time to sit back on your couch and watch it all play out. It's time to get in the battlefield and to be a part of it. And like we said earlier, there's going to be things that the Lord's going to put on your heart during this season, and he may already be doing so. So listen and be aware and be ready to act on those things and move forward. So I wish you all the best. Thanks for watching, and may the Lord bless you and keep you, and have a great and awesome October month.